Call the meeting to order. Welcome to the February 24th Airport Commission meeting. Commissioners and present, Clayton Raymond, Richard Liberatore, Dan Cunningham. His Honor, Stephen Di Natale, and the mayor. On staff, Peter Kettle and Debbie Silver Liley. Previous month's minutes, including special meeting minutes. Call for approval.
I'll motion to approve.
Richard?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So forth, that carries on. Okay. Action items from previous minutes. Now, Peter, I've got action items from the previous minutes. We're talking December. Are those appropriate? Yeah, they should be.
yeah.
huh? Okay. Matt Karen will follow up with KOBO for the electrical subcontractor about repairing the inoperative nav aids. Kobo is aware and in process of scheduling in a January timeframe. Has that happened?
That is ongoing. Kobo advised me today that the airport should try to get itself back on the flight inspection schedule.
Okay,
I reached out to FAA today to do just that. And the response I got from FAA was that there needs to be additional money put into the reimbursable account.
yep,
So I'm working with FAA and DOT to figure out where that money's coming from at the moment.
okay,
And as soon as they have the minimum required for their reimbursable agreement, they can put us on the schedule.
okay, thank you.
Any chance of getting it with the other one that's flying in this week, Nick? On Thursday?
That is a good question. And my hope is that John Merck replies
All right.
to my
Okay.
email tomorrow. If
Thank you.
not, then unfortunately, I don't have John Merck's cell phone number and he's not in the office, so I can't call the office number. So email is really the only way to get a hold of him. And
I'll give you his cell phone number tomorrow.
You have it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay, item 2, Peter Kettle will contact FAA to seek approval for a new hangar request location. Prior to an airport master plan update, FAA is not responding.
Yeah, well, we did get response and we had a meeting and they gave approval
Okay,
for the 7 hangars to be submitted to the city and then to the airport and then to the city.
okay,
And this is in prior notice of the airport master plan being built, which is, a little bit unusual, but they've said because of the potential revenue coming in, if all 7 buy, then it's going to be good. So they accept that we can do that.
okay.
Now, one thing that came up, Nick, that you should be aware of, I spoke to, oh God, what's his name? Anyhow, the guy at the FA, George Pantelli.
Yes.
And he said that, because I questioned the long taxiway that needs to be there. And he said, basically, under those circumstances, that if the people that are building the 7 hangars are prepared to pay for that taxiway, and then we put a claim in afterwards, they will reimburse the money for that taxiway.
Provided that it's built to FAA standards. I'm assuming.
Exactly.
Understood.
So, well, either way, they'll get the money back, won't they? So even if they actually do it at the preferred rates, they'll still get that money back. So, which is a good thing. So he actually told me that. So, it's good to go forward. But we'll get to that when we continue because there's other items on the agenda that actually deal with that as well. So,
Okay, the S2 box reimbursement check is expected but not received.
yeah, we spoke with Masdot Aeronautics yesterday.
Yep,
And it's in the process of being sent to the city.
okay,
So it's all approved.
okay. Peter Keller, Soto Farm update with address and tonight's agenda.
I got information from Chris, the last MAMA president.
Willenborg?
Yes. And he gave me a name of an airport and said they've just had one built. So contact them for the information that Mary's looking for. I sent 3 emails. I've since left 3 messages with no response. So at that time I contacted Matt, and Matt's going to arrange for us to go up to Maine to see the one at Sanford and hopefully get the technical details from them, and then we can go ahead with it.
Which airport were you trying to get through to, Peter?
I'd sooner not say. I don't want to give anybody a bad name. They're most probably
Okay.
so busy that, you know.
Okay, I'll talk to you about it privately. Thank you. Correspondence to the commission. Do we have any? Mr. Secretary.
I didn't receive anything.
Okay. Pete, do you have anything on board for us?
Uh,
Okay. None to report. Project review, Gale. There are 2
All right. Let me just,
ongoing work. Approval of the Royals and Poppies. All yours.
all right. Let me just open up my copy of the update here. So Gail is administering at the current moment 3 projects on
Yep.
behalf of the commission. The first being the runway project.
Yep.
Minimal update, not much has changed in the past couple of months. As you know, the flight inspection did not pass. We've been working with Kobo to get the nav aids operational again. There was a big to-do about whether or not the obstructions that were observed during the flight inspection were based on GPS points that the FAA still had in their database after the most recent tree clearing project, or if those obstructions were visually observed by looking out the window of the airplane. It was about 26 emails with 20 or so different members of the FAA, and not a single person could answer that question until the last email I had was commissioning data for the Pappies. So in my mind, I thought, okay, this means that the Pappies are ready for use. So I provided those forms to Peter and said, it seems like they're ready to use. You can turn them on. And immediately following turning on those nav aids, the FAA cracked down on Peter. And I'm sorry for that, Peter. I really am. It would have been very easy for someone at the FAA to answer that question in the negative so that we knew not to turn those on, but instead it was a circumvented answer in the form of commissioning data. So there's a lot to be griped about at the FAA at the moment, but they are helping us with the flight inspection. So as long as things are moving forward, I'm happy.
Agreed.
So at the moment, again, Kobo has told us that the nav aids are ready for inspection, and we are trying to get on the inspection schedule. Once the nav aids are inspected, approved, and commissioned, we can do the final closeout paperwork and get this project off the books.
Okay.
Any questions on the runway project?
No,
Mayor's got one.
you've let yourself down a bit though, Nick. You didn't mention that you were here with Ebe and you put the baffles in. So
Yes, we came out and it was sort of a quid pro quo deal with Kobo because they needed to realign the Pappies on the 3.2 end for the 4th time. I said, all right, thank you for doing that. I'll go calibrate those baffles on the Pappies. So me and Ibrahim came out to the airport. We're surprised to find that the lighting control panel in the admin building is not being used. So we switched control over to the admin, and all of a sudden the camera system stopped working. So there's still some electrical issues that need to get ironed out. Kobo is aware, and when they come back out to perform the corrective actions on the remaining signs that are still damaged from the lightning, they're going to troubleshoot the system and hopefully get that operating the way it was intended to. That being said, I would be remiss if I didn't at least give you guys the heads up. Kobo has been keeping a tally of the quote unquote lightning damage repairs. And my guess is they're going to seek payment for that as if it were not part of the project. It technically is an act of God, that being the lightning damage. And as you know, the AIP contract, really doesn't have much in the way of like a force majeure clause. But if it can be proven that lightning caused the damage, then they would be due additional payment for that.
Nick, what are they talking for monies?
They're somewhere in the ballpark of about 20,000 at this point.
So are they just trying to offset the cost for the plane when it comes in? Because as far as I'm concerned, as I've made it quite clear the last time we spoke or the time before, that they are responsible for us not getting approval on those PAPIs. Because they didn't come out and check it in time to stop the flight. So they're responsible for that. Maybe it's just their way of saying, okay, we won't pay for the flight. We won't charge you for the damage caused when we came out because of the lightning strike.
Yep. I
Just
don't
thinking out
know
loud.
I don't know that that's what they're doing, because I don't think they see themselves as responsible for the flight inspection. The way we worded the specification was the contractor is responsible to provide a complete and functioning system, tested, approved, and ready for use.
Which they didn't.
So, which, correct, that is something that we can certainly hang our hats on.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think in Kobo's minds, they, when they left the site, the equipment was working the way they had intended it to. And because the lightning damaged parts of it, and it was unknown to everyone until the flight inspection, that it's sort of outside of their control. But that being said, I do have test reports on the ground system that show the affected nav aids resistance to ground does not meet the requirements of FAA.
It
So,
doesn't.
It does not. The resistance to ground has to be a maximum of 50 ohms, and they were at like 600.
Oh, wow.
Now, that being said, the National Electric Code says if you've driven 3 ground rods and you can't meet the 50 ohms requirement, then you just call it good. They
Okay.
haven't driven 3 ground rods, but whether or not they, if let's say they come out and with even 3 more ground rods, they can't meet that requirement. They may have a case in their defense, but per a discussion with John Merck, the National Electric Code is completely different from the FAA's requirements, and those two should not be commingled.
Okay,
So-
so I have a question. Are they saying that they weren't aware that there was a lightning strike? That's why they didn't come out and check the PAPIs and the reels?
They knew that there was a lightning strike that knocked out the S1 controller,
Right.
but they did not know that their own nav aids were impacted by that.
But they should know because we sent out the emails to everybody saying we had a lightning strike. And
Mhm.
Peter Parvo was on that.
Mhm.
And they are a subcontractor to DW White, who Peter Parvo is the manager of.
Mhm.
So, I mean, common sense says we'll come out and have a look at our stuff.
Yep.
Prior to a $16,000 flight taking place.
Right. So I think, I can certainly begin discussions with DW White about this, and I have a feeling they'll hold Kobo's feet to the fire. It's going to be a matter of compiling all of that information and presenting it in a way that supports our cause.
No, of course. Of
And
course.
so that is certainly something I can work towards this week.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the runway? Okay, not hearing any. The next project is the fueling system. Let's see, let me pull up this file again. Sorry, I have a couple of files open. So regarding the fuel system, there are still several issues with the tank system that Gail is working out with the contractor. It's the hope to have these resolved in short order so that this project can be removed from the monthly update, hopefully by next month. The remaining issues are the lights that appear to be on 24 hours a day. I think there's a photocell issue, as well as a fueling nozzle that was recently replaced by the contractor, but for some reason they put in a 45-degree elbow that causes rubbing, from what I understand, up against the airplanes that are fueling, and may cause damage. So we have reached out to the contractor to see if they can remove that 45-degree elbow. Peter, have I hit the
No,
item?
that's correct.
Remain.
Yeah.
Any other ones that I may
No,
have-
no, you're dead on, Nick. All we're looking for is the same type of nozzle and pipe with the O-ring in that's on the trucks that we've got, which is a straight pipe, because we know that works.
Yep.
So,
So I reached out to Dependable to see if they can come out and swap that piece, and still waiting for a response. Have not received
Okay.
one yet.
thank you.
Any questions on the fuel farm project?
Well, not a question, but a recommendation.
Certainly.
If they can't, if there's no straight one available, they can take the 45-degree one back, cut out a 45-degree slot, weld it up and give us a straight one,
Certainly could.
you know?
Or just two 45 degrees at opposite angles to make it straight.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't look very nice, would it?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there is a fabricated piece that does that,
Yes, there is.
that serves that purpose. So
Of
we'll
course.
we'll make sure we get that over to you.
Thank you.
And the third project is the master plan. And I know that Matt regrets not being able to attend tonight. I will give you the synopsis. At this point, we have just a few things left. The scoping meeting with FAA and Mass DOT, as well as representatives from Gale and the airport, occurred on January 14th. The scope of work has been prepared, and we are currently waiting for clarification from FAA on the aerial survey portion of the master plan. Because we just did an aerial survey at the conclusion of the runway project, we reached out to FAA just to make sure that the full, it's called an 18B survey, and the 18B refers to the advisory circular that governs it. That advisory circular specifies all of the data standards that or the format of all the data that it needs to be in to be uploaded into FAA's GIS system. If we are not required to upload it into AGIS because the runway really uploaded everything that was safety critical information, then we can just do a simple aerial survey and save the airport and the FAA some money. We still need the data in the full protected surface area of influence. So the transitional surface, the horizontal and conical surfaces that go out a ways from the airport. We'd like to have obstruction data in all of those surfaces. That way we can fully vet all of the development options in the master plan. If it's not required to be in the 18B format, then it's a lot cheaper for the aerial survey to do. So we are waiting for concurrence from FAA that the AGIS upload is not necessary, and then we can finalize the scope of work and get that over to the commission for review. We anticipate having that well in advance of the next meeting, so that the commission can review it and discuss it at the next meeting in March. From there, once you guys approve the scope of work, it'll have to go out for an independent fee estimate. Once we receive that, or once the city receives that, you can compare it to Gale's fee proposal, and if necessary, do a contract negotiation phase, or we can, if it's within 10%, you can just accept that as a fair and reasonable price. So all of that being said, we are still on track to apply for the grant for this project by the May 1st grant application deadline or earlier. And unfortunately, though, it's a stipulation of a planning grant work on that cannot begin until the grant is actually in place. So it's looking like actual boots on the ground work on the master plan will not take place until FAA issues the grant to fund it.
The time frame on that, Nick?
Planning grants, especially ones that use entitlements and don't require discretionary, are usually issued in short order. But if I were going to give you the FAA answer, that grant will be issued by September 30th, 2021.
Really?
It's the end of their fiscal year. It has to be issued by then.
Shit.
I don't
I thought
anticipate
this would have
that.
been a spring thing, no?
I mean, yes, if the entitlement money is there to cover the full cost of the project, then they can issue that immediately.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
so question for you, Nick.
Mhm.
The scoping meeting in January was for the planning of the airport master plan. Is that correct? Or the dollar amount you expect to have into it for engineering?
The dollar amount was not discussed. We basically nailed down a scope of services.
Yeah.
And we've put together the written scope of work for your review.
Okay,
When we get final concurrence from FAA on that 18B portion, we can send that over for review. We have not applied a fee to it at this point, nor do I think the commission should see Gale's fee proposal until you receive the independent fee estimate.
I'm just, I just want to clarify that you have not worked on the airport master plan as of yet.
No, we have not. The project development, the scoping and contract negotiation phase, that is eligible.
Yeah.
But any actual work on the document itself it needs to wait until the grant is in place.
Okay, so with that said, if you give me another second here. The proposed hangar for Spinelli. Who decides foundation height, distance to the runway, size of the taxiway, where the water runs off, on and on and on and on and on?
Mhm.
I'd like to know, and I don't see us moving forward with a hangar of that size, not knowing all that
Mhm.
information. That can be a big problem as far as, snow drifts and rain and you name it.
So when you say the Spinelli hangar, is this that group of hangars
Yes.
Yes,
yes,
that are out in the
One for
area
end.
on the far side of the runway?
Yeah.
So that, it has been vetted through the previous master plan. So I believe your environmental impact statements and environmental impact reports are all,
They're done.
they're still done. When it comes to the actual hangars themselves, the contractor building them and the engineer assisting them do that would likely determine all of those factors. Insofar as the taxiway leading to them, if Peter is correct and FAA is willing to reimburse the cost of that taxiway, it would have to be done to FAA standards, which would mean, I'm guessing, it would be an AIP project. If not, I don't know that the checks and balances would be in place to have a private contractor do it and with no inspection services. And then I don't think you'd have the documentation to.
you wouldn't know what to do. He wouldn't know the difference between putting a taxiway here or a runway here or a driveway here
Right,
without his specifications.
exactly. And while the specifications are readily available, implementing them and determining a design aircraft and all things like that are sort of outside of the wheelhouse of any contractor. There would have to be an engineer involved.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, as far as the heights, there would be airspace determinations done.
The height, I really meant the height of the floor in the hangar.
Right.
If it's 3 inches too shallow, it fills up with water when it rains.
Right.
If it's 8 inches too high, then the planes come out of the hangar at a high rate of speed and you can't stop them.
Mhm.
You know, if you're just pulling them with a tow bar. So I mean, having built my own house, I know that not knowing where that benchmark is
Mhm.
is a real problem. And it starts on day one, as soon as they start digging. So it's a concern of mine.
I would guess that before any construction commences, they would have to have stormwater permits in hand. They would have to have all of those details ironed out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And a survey will have been completed.
Correct.
Question through the chair to Nick.
Yes.
So I'm going to make me understand this a little bit better. We can build a building, a T hangar, without the master plan put together. But if there's mistakes due to not conforming to the regulations that are supposed to go with the master plan, if things have to be corrected, who's responsible for that?
Well, the hangars are shown in the current master plan. So they have gone through the review process with FAA.
Okay.
The rub is there have been various operational changes at the airport since the last master plan. You don't have a crosswind runway anymore. Your taxiway and runway separation is different. Your clearance areas are different. So I think in the spirit of the old master plan, this would be an allowable project. We would just have to make sure that it meets the current standards, and whether or not the airport would use that land for hangars or some other airport use can be flushed out in this upcoming master plan. But for all intents and purposes, you have the old master plan to go off at this point.
Okay, I just don't want us to get involved in something, somebody coming behind us and saying, oh, no, you weren't supposed to do that. You know, that isn't part of the plan. But as long as we know that this is an operation that we're gonna pursue, and we've already got the groundwork done, I'm supporting it. I'm really sketchy about this group, this hangar, this whole deal. I'm not warm and fuzzy with the whole deal, because I guess maybe I don't know exactly where it's going. And I think that bothers me the most, because again, I'm working, trying to get monies for the city to operate some hangar space. And, you know, the people are trying to just maneuver their way throughout the airport. I'm being very watchful for all this. So,
Can I just say something? I think you're all being overcautious, to be honest. We're not dealing with idiots. These 7 people run their own businesses. They know they've got to build them to the FAA specs. So I don't see any concern at all. I really don't. And the first thing we've got to do is get the RFP out. And that will stipulate the way that the hangars are actually going to have to be built.
mhm.
So then it's up to them to come to the city and to the airport to approve the specifications. And we're not just going to do that without getting John Merck, who's the FAA engineer, involved.
Yeah.
So it's all going to be done correctly. You know,
Peter, does our building department get involved with this? Is this all FAA standards and procedures?
both.
Are they both are involved?
They will, yeah, they'll get involved.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have to.
Especially if they want to
issue a
put in
foundation
bathrooms
permit,
and
they'll have
things
to
like
issue an
that.
Electrical permit, a
Yeah.
building permit. all
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
all got to be done.
Okay.
you have to be involved with the permitting process, right, Nick? That's what you-
Well, for things like the building permit and the electrical permit, that is, as long as it meets the approval of the city's building and wire inspector, Yale does not need to be involved.
Okay.
Now, that being said, you know, we're not off in our own bubble separate from you guys in this. If you have questions or concerns, we're going to consult for you.
All right,
That's why we have a consultant,
That's right.
you know.
Or I get to talk to you guys, the
There's
better.
one major change. If you go above, I think it's 6,000 square feet. If you go above 6,000 square feet, you have to have a fire suppression system built into the actual hangar.
That's 7,500 square feet.
7,500, I beg your
And
pardon.
the
Thanks, Nick.
odd thing is, the building department, or I guess the state building code, calls for it from outside of exterior wall to outside of exterior wall. So typically, when someone says, square footage of floor area, they're thinking inside wall to inside wall. That's how you'd measure your house. I ran into this when I did Gardner's T hanger. We had to cut, it was like 18 inches off one end of the building to get under that 7,500 square foot threshold, so we didn't have to do a fire suppression system.
Okay, so with that experience, Nick, do you see any problems at Fitchburg? Now you've already done one for Gardner and you followed all the protocols. I don't see any concern.
Are you looking for FAA funding for this?
No,
I do not see any concerns.
right. The only funding would be for the taxiway, because that's not part and parcel of the hangars. It's just the spurs that come off the taxiway that are part and parcel, So no, I think you're
Mr. Chair.
unduly.
Yes, Clay.
This fire suppression system, is this hangar going to be larger than the 7,500?
No,
Square
none of
foot?
them are. There's going to be 7 hangars.
Oh,
Richard.
different hangars.
Yes, 7 different ones. That's the way it looks like they're going at the moment.
Okay, and without fire suppression in any of them?
No, because they're not going to be above 7,500 square feet.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Nicholas, last thing, solar farm.
So
Go for it.
I personally have not been involved in the solar farm discussions. I'm aware that the RFP is forthcoming, but I don't think Gale is providing any services related to that. I think
Okay.
it was,
All right, I just saw it on my list. That's why I come forward with it.
Now that might change, Nick, after my discussion with Matt.
well, I know that you're looking for a diagram or some type of graphic.
We're
showing the
looking,
exact
yeah, we're
area.
looking for technical details on the solar panels, the photovoltaic cells themselves. And I've also got, we've also got, I think it was Matt that we asked, you've got these pools either side of the main area that the panels are going to go on.
Mhm.
And I said to Matt in a discussion, I said, look, we've got areas the other side of the pool. So why can't we put the stuff in these other areas to give us more than the 14.1 acres? And he said, you can. I said, okay, so let's think outside the box. Why don't we put concrete either side of the pools, put some RSJs, roll steel joists over the pools, and put the panels on top of them as well to get even more area? And he said, yeah, why not? We'll look into all of this. So there's a lot that can be done, to get us more area, to get us more revenue coming into the airport by
Well-
selling more electricity.
I think that might be a permitting hurdle.
Oh, I'm sure.
I know those vernal, so if it's considered a vernal pool, have you heard that phrase come up?
Yes. Yeah.
That means there are things like fairy shrimp and other wildlife that live in there that are dormant when it's dry, but come back to life when it's wet again. So I
They're
don't
going to love
know-
it, Nick.
What's
They've
that?
got a roof over them. They're going to love it. They'll
Hey,
thrive.
that's the thing. I'm not an environmental specialist, but I would guess if you're now shading that vernal pool from sunlight, it would have some detrimental effect. So
Depending
I can
on
almost
how they're
guarantee-
spaced, obviously.
Let's
if
send
you're
it to
in,
Florida.
if you're
I'm
in a
sure
buffer
it can be
zone for
done.
one of those vernal pools, you have to submit for permits.
Right.
Certainly, if you're going to go over one, that would be a permitting effort
Yeah.
in itself. And there would likely be a mitigation ratio of somewhere between 2-to-1 and 5-to-1.
Right. But remember, that's not us doing that. This is the company that's going to come in and do it all for free for us. And they're going to sell the electricity and give us a payback from what they sell. It's their responsibility. They'll have to do all the permits and everything.
It still takes away from the whole cost of the project and
Oh, yeah, of course it does.
filters into how much we get paid monthly, but
It does.
yeah,
It does, but we know at the moment we've been offered 30 grand a year,
yeah,
you know, and I'm sure it's going to be more than that once Nick and his people at Gale have looked at the area, the potential area that's there for use,
Mhm.
as against, you know, just looking at the little bit that we've got at the moment. So I think it's going to be much more.
Okay. Okay. Say what? Fitchburg Pilots Association, an update, Peter?
They've got nothing. They're still working to all the COVID rules, et cetera, et cetera. One thing they did want to say was that they thank everybody that was involved in clearing all the snow so quickly after the 22 inches we had, and then another 8 inches 2 days afterwards.
Well, that says a lot to you and the crew.
No, it's
I know
yeah, for the
you were.
crew. Yes, definitely.
You were out there doing it too.
All right. But yes, it was the crew. It was the crew.
Okay. So kudos to you and the crew. New business. Joe Spinelli plus additional 5 people, now 7.
Yeah. Yeah, one guy wants to actually buy a brand new Phenom, and Mr. Raymond knows what a Phenom is. It's a
Great
beautiful
stuff.
jet. They're about, I think about $9.5 million. He wants Rich Corley, the guy who is renting Hangar 1 at the moment, to manage that aircraft. And because of that, they want to build another hangar. So this makes it up to the 7. And I've got one other guy as well.
So that's 7 or 8. 7?
7 new hangars.
7 new hands.
But yeah, there is a caveat to it all. As you may know, or you may not know, but the FAA will allow rents to go in 20-year segments through the city. So the first one, they would sign a contract or an agreement for 20 years with the option of another 20 years. And they're going to take it, obviously, because they've got to amortize their costs in building those hangars over a time frame. But the FAA stipulate that the next one after that 20 is only 10. 50 years is the maximum. Well, that's not acceptable to these 7 owners. They
Really?
want 60 years. And when I spoke to George Pantelli, I told him this. He says, Peter, if you can guarantee me all of those 7 will build those hangars, I'll go to 60. So this is a challenge for us to
Yeah.
get those 7 guys to build the hangars. I mean, they've said they will do, but when push comes to shove, if we only get 3, they're not going to get 60 years. So
Mhm.
we're going to lose out on those hangars being built. I just want to make you aware of that. Think of, you know, something outside the box on how we can maintain these guys to stay at the airport.
There's no one person that could afford to do all 7 of those hangars.
I think they could all afford to do all 7,
Would they? Yep.
but
Would
it's
they be?
principle. It's principle, you know?
Let them build the 7 hangars and let them sublease the hangar.
They could do, but then again, that's something that the city should be getting the revenue on, because, you know, the square footage that we've got is dollars per square foot is so small.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't really make a lot of money out of it.
I
If
know.
they were our buildings, like Mr. Liberatori, you know, is trying to get all the T hangars. That's where the money is.
Yes.
But this is bringing 7 jets into the airport.
Yeah, it makes a
The
difference.
jet revenue is just going to go way up on the fuel sales.
Right.
So, no,
And
it's
the
exciting
activity.
times.
Yeah.
So the enthusiasm for 7, are they strong? They really want it, or
Oh yeah, but we've got to get this RFP out.
what's
We're
holding that?
waiting and waiting. Sorry,
What's holding that up?
I don't know if it's with our attorney or whether it's with our procurement director. But I sent it to them 2 weeks ago, and I spoke to the attorney last week, and he said, Peter, if you're happy with it and Mary's happy with it, get it published.
Okay,
And I'm waiting, Mr. Mayor, for the RFP,
okay.
please.
It's a lot of money for the city.
It is.
Yep. Okay, self-service fuel fund. What do we
We've
got?
covered that.
Okay,
We've covered that.
COVID-19 vaccinations?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that even though I'm the only one that's in terms of age that is allowed to get one, Three of us have already got it at the airport. I connived, what you say here, and we've got all three of us now have had double ones. I had mine at 1 o'clock today, and I was a bit worried how I was going to be tonight, but I'm fine. That's my second.
I got my second one last Monday.
Right.
A little,
But you
a little,
were sick,
little
weren't
off for 24 hours.
you? Right.
A little, well, a little off anyway.
Yeah, just 24.
All right, Ray. You guys want to start? There's a lady present. I won't go any further. COVID-19, everybody all set there. Okay, ACRGP.
That stands for Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program.
Okay,
Basically, we've got 23 additional $1,000 coming into the airport from the FAA.
okay.
23,000?
23,000. Last year it was 69, remember?
Can we spend it any way we want?
It's already gone. You don't have to think about that.
Oh, good.
We've spent that.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, we need fuel, we need roofs, we need
Yeah.
doors, we need everything, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I just thought it'd be nice to let you know, we've got an additional 23 grand coming in that Debbie's looking after. She's doing all the paperwork, so.
Peter, speaking about the roofs, that hangar 1 and hangar 2, do we take care of all those roof issues?
I think we're gonna get down that here, aren't we? Yeah, we are.
Oh, okay.
So that's a
I
little
wasn't sure. All
further down.
right. All right, when we get there.
All right, let's get down to the old business. S2 box repair, where we at with that, Pete?
The check is being worked on, it's imminent,
Okay,
okay?
get it filled of commission member vacancy. Mr. Mayor, do you have anybody?
I do.
Yeah.
Current city councilor and attorney Beth Walsh.
Good,
Oh, excellent.
excellent.
Yep. We spoke today, so I'll be appointing her tomorrow.
Okay,
She will have to recuse herself at this budget round for anything to do with the airport, obviously, but
yeah,
other than that,
that's super. Oh, that's great.
she's, yeah, she's excited about it. I said, yeah, I said they need some improvement in the makeup of that committee anyway, so you there will certainly
we're-
improve that.
Thanks a lot.
To that situation, with the exception of subjecting Debbie to all your nonsense. I mean, it's, now Beth Walsh can enjoy it too, see?
Well,
That's good.
Yeah,
It's good to be diversified.
Yes.
There you
it
go.
is good to be-
Yes.
yes. Yeah, we're all about equity, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm muting now.
Good.
Drone presentation.
Still the same as the last one. I've kept it
Okay.
on there because it needs to be done.
Solar farm, we just talked about that. Land excess rental, Leominster DPW.
We spoke to Leominster DPW on Monday, and they are waiting the final report from the appraiser.
Okay,
They said it should be within the next 2 weeks, so we'll have it for the next meeting.
okay. SCA new rental agreement, hangar 12 agreement.
Yeah, that was, well, hangar 12 was a new agreement, but the hangar, the rental agreement, sorry, was a 3-year agreement that's now expired.
Yeah.
And we put the rent up, and we've also got all the spaces in hangar 12 purely for the FCA flight school.
Okay,
So we've now got 2 agreements signed for 3 years. Done deal. And we're making money on them, so.
okay. Super. Okay, item G, hangar 2 and 3, 12 and 13.
Okay, in answer to Commissioner Liberatori's question, hangar 1 should be on there as well, shouldn't it? Because hangar 1 is a recent dilemma. There's some very expensive planes in hangar 1. They've got an age with them, but you can't buy a new one, a second-hand one for less than almost $600,000. And there's 3 in that hangar. And we've got a skylight leaking straight down onto one of the planes. So we got a consultant in under the recommendation of Russell Carlstedt, Mr. Mayor. And they did an analysis and said, it's not the roof leaking, it's the skylight that's leaking. Today, I spoke with Rich Corley, who's the guy who's renting all of those out for Skyline Aviation. And he said there's 3 skylights leaking. So we've already got a quote. And it's less than $2,000, which is really good. But obviously they're saying this will last you 5 or 6 years and then we'll have to put a new roof on. They're looking long term, but we're not. If they repair those skylights properly, they will live for 20 years. Like the first ones have lived for almost 50 years. So that's in hand. Now, hangar 2 and hangar 3, we do need new roofs on those hangars. And like I told you the last time, we had a quote, there were $23,000 each, which was $46,000. Tomorrow I have a meeting with the mayor and his team on the budget for the airport.
Right.
So, you know, that's going to be discussed. But generally everything is being worked on and we're getting results.
Okay.
Russell Carlstadt actually went into hangar 10, which is Nagel's, because Nagel got a leak on, you know, that hangar, Commissioner Raymond. As
Yes.
you walk into the door, not the main door, but from the office side, you turn right, that far wall there in that corner, it's leaking just through the wall.
Yeah,
So Russell Carlstadt came in and he took out his Samsung phone and he plugged something into the bottom of it. And he says, look at this, Peter. And he goes, boom. And he's got a thermal imaging camera built into that little box that fits to his Samsung phone. And it showed that that whole wall was cold. Well, the hangar's hot because they've got the gas burners working. It's all condensation and it's all going into that side of the wall. So when we repaired the floor and put the new floor into the hangar, they got a big fan, maybe 5 feet in diameter, and it's still down there. I said, get it out and put it in there and let's get that air circulation to see what's going on. That was 2 days ago. So tomorrow we'll go into the hangar and have a look. And I hope that it's just condensation because the whole roof was like a sieve. But since we did the roof, it's been fantastic.
Peter, did you reach out to Carlstead? Did you reach out to him? How did he get involved?
Mary did. I went to
Mary
Mary.
did. Excellent. Good.
I went to Mary and Mary said, well, why don't you talk to Russell? I said, who's Russell? Because I didn't know him.
Yeah.
And he called and we had a chat and he came down and no, he's a good
Well,
guy.
that's good. We're going to have to add the airport to his job description.
Absolutely.
That wasn't part of the plan when we
Oh.
hired him, but don't
Oh,
tell him
well,
anything.
Well, tell him it was like you told me.
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah, he's a pretty knowledgeable guy. That's
He
good.
is.
I'm glad he got involved. I'll
Yeah.
mention something to him tomorrow. That's great.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
Item H, new lineman.
As you know, at the last meeting, I mentioned that we'd interviewed 10 of them and none of them were any good. We were obviously tried to be coerced into taking one of them, but I don't want to take on anybody for the airport that can't do what we want them to do, or they've got to be trained. So we've now got another 5 to look at. And we spoke with the HR department today, and they gave us some days to look at. And the ones that we chose for the interviews are Tuesday of next week. And there's 5 people to look at. With one of them, the son of Mr. Cunningham, our chairman of the commission.
His son? Oh, okay.
My son Scott.
Yeah, good. You're not, Peter, you're looking for someone to replace the other guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I understand he was exceptional. Maybe you got to lower your expectations.
no, what I shouldn't have done is told Mr. Bobanetto or whatever his name is about how good he was, because I told Tom to put in for that job and so did Debbie and he got the job. So I'm now short of a guy.
Yeah.
Tom was a good guy and
Well, he was kind of overqualified, wasn't he?
he was, but you know, he loved the job. He
Yeah.
really, he didn't want to take it when we said, yeah, go on, do it.
Yeah.
You know, so, But no, there's got to be people out there. I just wish the government would stop giving all these incentives for people who are off work, because nobody
Yeah.
wants to work,
Yeah,
and we're not getting the right sort of people. And I'm not taking somebody that, is just going to be okay. I want somebody that's going to be good. So,
okay.
but yeah, so that's Tuesday.
All right, financial review, approval of commitments and abatements.
Yeah, well, that's the same. We'll sign them off when we get them from the accountants,
Okay,
with your permission, obviously.
snow clearing, what manages operation report.
Yeah, well, we did that. The FPA and FACT owners, they both, gave good results to us, and they
Okay.
praised us a little bit. Underneath there, we're now in the manager's report, right?
Yeah,
Normally I say, well, we've done it all, but this time, I'd just like to point out what we have done at the airport. On the point of sale items, which is landing fees and things like this, we've increased the cost by $5 to bring in more revenue. We've also put in the overnight landing fee as well, up by $5. We today put the fuel up for 100 LL fuel by 28 cents a gallon. And the Jet A, we put it up by 25 cents a gallon.
We still competitive?
We have not moved on the list. We had that leeway to move. So we looked at it and said, well, why don't we increase it? But
Huh.
in all honesty, we haven't put the fuel up for about 8 months. So it's not before time, to be honest.
Right.
Okay? Because the fuel has gone up tremendously, like you see with the gas at the gas stations when you go
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that caught me by surprise.
Right, right. So the other thing that we've done, we've stopped the fuel trucks serving fuel to the airplanes at 4:30 in the afternoon. Why? Because we have a self-serve fuel farm.
Right.
So the main reason to do this was, if somebody called for the truck at 10 to 5, the guys would go and fill the planes. They'd then take maybe 15, 20 minutes to do it. They take the truck back, they park it in the space, they go in, they finish their paperwork, 1 hour overtime. So by finishing the trucks servicing the planes at 4:30, everything's done by then. So we're cutting the overtime down, and our budget is going down. We're using that budget. So we want to be in a position by the end of the year that, we've still got a little bit left in the overtime budget. And this we saw as a way of doing it.
Good,
So, okay.
good managing.
Well, we think so. We think so.
it is.
Okay, and that's it, guys.
Okay, the date and time of the next meeting will be March 24th.
Mr. Chairman, before we go,
Yes,
I was gonna ask Deb to put this in, but this was not settled. I just want to bring you up to date on something that I've been pursuing. As you know, for the last 7 months, I've been a member of the MJTC, which is the Montezuma Joint Transportation Commission. And it's all about transportation in our region. I'm representing the airport. And Brad Harris is the transportation project manager. So for 7 months, I've been following how money and grants has been going through this whole committee thing, money coming into this region. The MOT gets a ton of money for their buses and transportation. It's crazy. I'm still learning it, but I reached out to Brad and I told him that the airport is looking maybe to get some grants to make T hangars operated by the municipal airport for our benefit, and is there money available? So he's going to reach out to a group of people. I think he also is going to reach out to Mass DOT. He's going to get back to me on what the procedure is, how things would work if there is a grant available. So I just want to keep everybody in tune that I'm kind of going to this edge, looking for money, but this thing may work. He says he's not sure, but he's going to talk to a group of people. So I have another meeting with him next month, hopefully before our next meeting, and I could bring you up to date on everything that's happening here. So I think this is a good avenue to pursue. Should be if it doesn't work. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody, anything else?
May I just comment on that? May I just comment on that, please?
Go ahead.
You've obviously done some good work, Commissioner Liberatore, because the FAA called me this morning. And they said, who's this guy Liberatore? How do you get on with him? Is he trying to work behind your back? And I said, no, he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. And I said, no, we're all good at the airport and the commission. Everybody's good. And
You know, I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing.
all right. So he's
You
welcome.
gotta
to
watch,
take the
you gotta
position.
watch that guy, I'll tell you.
Hey, if there's
I'll
money
tell
out
you
there,
what, Mr. Mayor,
we
he's
got
welcome to the
all those
position.
resources.
I love it. Good for you. Thanks,
No.
Richie.
We got discussing and she said, you know, the FAA will build those hangars for you. And I said, they will? She said, yes. She said, you get $150,000 a year grant to the airport. If you don't want to use that grant for 5 years, that's going to give you $1.x million, maybe to build those. This is what they said, Nick. This is what she said, Denise Garcia. So I said, okay, thank you very much. She said, but there is a caveat to that. And I said, what's that? She said, your airport has to be absolutely perfect. You cannot have any other fences to put up. You can't have any wildlife assessments to be made. Everything's got to be perfect before you can use that 150,000 grant to build hangars. I said, okay. I said, so we really can't build the hangars then. And she just laughed. So, you know, but no, you try, you keep on trying. Excellent.
May I?
Yes,
Excellent.
Nick.
Two caveats to that. One, you would have to forego any project for the next 5 years.
Well, yeah,
So
Are we
you have to
done?
bankroll that, because if you have a grant, even if it requires discretionary, they take your entitlements for that year and roll it into that grant. So you'd have to go 5 years without a project. And the AIP handbook is pretty clear that you can bankroll 3 years of entitlements. On the 4th year, the 1st year expires. So
oh,
the
she didn't
most
say
you
that,
can,
Nick.
the
She-
most you can bankroll, I believe, is you can get 600,000, but if it's not issued to the airport in the form of a grant, then the first 150,000 expires.
Okay.
You could always loan entitlements to another airport who needs it, with the understanding that they'll give it back to you in a number of years. And that's what Gardner did for their T hangar. They begged, borrowed, and stole entitlements, and they got up to, the federal share was 990.
This would be our project, Nick. You know, after everything is done, our runway is done. I think our taxiways are going to be done. Is this still part of the plan?
I believe the taxiways are on your CIP at this point. I know the
Right.
master plan was the next one.
All right, so the next thing is our municipal operated T hangars. Right? Is there anything else I'm missing? Any other projects?
We've got to do the taxiways. We've got to do,
Paper the mayor's office? Yeah, what are we doing?
we've got to do the ramp as well.
Yeah,
We've got the wildlife assessment to do. We've got the border all the way around the airport with brand new fencing to put up. These are big, big projects. A lot of money, a lot of revenue from the FAA.
You know, it's really unfortunate that these big dollar items really result in zero money to us every year.
no shit. Yeah, seriously. You know, I mean, here we're trying to make our revenue so we can do these projects.
I know,
We're handcuffed that we gotta take care of all this little
Yeah.
stuff before we can take care of our needs. I really struggle with all this, you know?
yeah.
Maybe I'm off base here, but aren't there some provisions in 2024 for some fencing to be taken care of by someone?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
but it might go back a year or two like it has done already.
Oh, boy. Okay.
The FAA, in all honesty, seem to be cutting back. Every time we have a meeting with them, they seem to be cutting back. So, heavens knows what's going to happen in the future.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
All right.
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for
Thank you,
everyone's
Nick.
hard work.
Great seeing
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Meeting is closed.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.